I welcome everybody to the Chicano Moratorium presentation with Ernesto Ayala from la Raza Unida. I am Viva Padilla, the owner of this spot here. Thank you all for coming out on a Saturday. I know it's a little noisy, maybe a little warm, so I do have water, beer, things like that. The cumbias don't really start until 8:30, so we're going to try to wrap it up before then so we can all go over there for the cumbias afterwards. But without further ado, this is Ernesto Ayala, as many of you already know, and we're just going to go ahead and get started. This is going to be recorded for later educational purposes. It'll be on YouTube later on, and you can find the other presentations that we've done here also on the YouTube for the store. So he's done about 6 of them on different topics, including Aslan and Palestine, what it means to be Chicano, Aslan, like so many other things. So if you guys are interested in that, it'll be all on that YouTube. So thank you so much. Let's give a round of applause to Ernesto Ayala.
Hello. How's everyone doing? Yeah, again, my name is Ernesto Ayala. I'm the vice chair of the Partido Nacional de la Raza Unida, which is a Chicano Raza indigenous organization that's existed since 1969. The chapter that I grew up in, because my father was a member of la Raza Unida, is, he's out now because a member, is the San Fernando Valley chapter, which has been around since 1971, organizing, despite the ups and downs, we've been there with that. My family has been a part of it all that time. So I'm very proud of that. That's what I grew up in. That's why the event that we're going to talk about today, the topic we're going to talk about today, the Chicano Moratorium. Some of you all might know, ¿verdad? Some of you might not, ¿verdad? That's cool. That's cool. I mean, that's cool. Es el calor, man. On the shirt. So thank you. It's a very important event in Chicano history. And I think the one of the things that I hope that people think about is, a lot of people don't even know this event even occurred. Yeah. But it occurred down the street from here. And it was a historic event in which people died, and so we're going to talk about this event. My dad was there, that's why it's something very near and dear to me, because he was actually there. I grew up participating in the Chicano Moratorium since I was a little kid. And I've done the same with my kids. I have a daughter, she's 16 years old, a baby, he's about to be 1 year old. Yeah, he was born a few days after the Chicano Moratorium, so August 31st, the day before my birthday.
And this all relates back to Ruben Salazar?
Yes,
okay.
He was one of the people that died.
Well, then I can say I was there too, but
Oh.
I was on my Nino's shoulder.
Wow,
Yeah.
okay, it's an honor.
And my memory is very faint, but I do remember that was my first protest.
Wow.
Yeah,
See?
crazy.
So, Chicano Moratorium. So, it's a very important event that I think everyone in LA, at least in LAUSD, should be taught, but we're not taught about it. It's no surprise we're not even taught anything about our history, about the history of this land, which is Chicano history, indigenous history. We don't learn really anything about it, so it's not a surprise that they won't teach us about the Chicano Moratorium, which was a pivotal event in our community's experience, in our collective experience. It's something very near and dear to me, ¿verdad? We commemorate it every year. There's a commemoration coming up on Saturday, August 25th, I believe? 24th. ¿Verdad? It'll be at Salazar Park, right there on Whittier Boulevard también. You're all welcome to come, ¿verdad? I'll email you all the flyer for that, ¿verdad? That's why we have the sign-in sheet to stay in touch with you. But it's a very important event. It's going to be the 54th Chicano Moratorium, and I'm proud to say that the Partido de la Raza Unida has consistently organized it, or been a part of the organizing since then, because that's how important that day is to us, ¿verdad? So, let's start off with the slides. That's the new logo as of 2020. And yes, I designed it. Oh, and before we start también, ¿verdad? I want to recognize compañera Viva, for her effort, ¿verdad? In opening up the space. We were talking a little earlier, ¿verdad? About some of the trials that she went through, ¿verdad? With the space. Some of the people that attacked her online for standing up for her people, for the raza, and she stood up strong, ¿verdad? And she opened up the space to the partido. She's joining también, ¿verdad? We're trying to figure out how to rebuild the chapter here in Boyle Heights in East LA, in Los Angeles in general. Pero I want to recognize the compañera, ¿verdad? For having the space, ¿verdad? Here and opening it up, ¿verdad? To these presentations, ¿verdad? Again, we started doing it in February. It was the first one?
Yeah, it was
February. And every month we do a presentation, ¿verdad? And we're trying to draw out people to join the partido, to know more about Chicano history, ¿verdad? To get involved with our own issues as a people, ¿verdad? In our community. So if it wasn't for her, this wouldn't be happening.
What was the pushback?
There's a trend, I would say, on the so-called left that is very anti-Mexican, very anti-Chicano, very racist against Chicanos. And they attack. They're cowards in person, but online they're very vocal.
Yep.
But it affects the work that we could be doing. If it wasn't for that stuff, this room would probably be full. Because for example, there used to be mechas before, Movimiento Estudiantil Chicano de Aztlán. A lot of those groups are being destroyed because of this trend, which says you can't say Chicano, you shouldn't say Aztlán, you shouldn't say all these things, you should be ashamed of who you are. So all the stuff that white people or the establishment used to tell us is now being told to us by our own people who supposedly are woke. And some of them supposedly are even communists, socialists, leftists, revolutionaries, but they're saying the same stuff, ¿verdad? But it's okay because it's coming from them. It's not okay. But the compañera stood up against that. They were telling her to not, don't host the Raza Unida, don't do a presentation on Aztlán. How dare you do that? That's racist, And how is it racist? They couldn't exactly say how, but it just is racist.
What's Aztlán?
Aztlán is a term that's used by Chicanos to refer to mainly the Southwest.
Okay.
The land that was taken from us.
Okay.
In our origins on that.
Yeah.
But a lot of people on these circles, they say that's racist. Because you're supposedly ignoring all the tribes, which a lot of us descend from in the first place.
Yeah.
So it's a bunch of silly stuff. But the sister stood up against that. And I'm proud to work with her. And I just want to recognize that, ¿verdad? So a round of applause.
Yeah.
So on to the Chicano Moratorium. Chicano Moratorium?
Oh, it's gonna. Oh, sorry.
That's cool.
Oh, wait.
I think you just got next.
Yeah.
On August 29th, 1970, over 30,000 Chicanas, obviously, converged on Whittier Boulevard in East Los Angeles. People came from throughout Aztlán to protest the high number of Chicanos dying in the U.S. invasion of Vietnam, the so-called Vietnam War. That was like the main thing, My dad came, he's a veteran, ¿verdad? All these other people came. It was a very community event, ¿verdad? Like compañera said, she was on her tío's shoulders, ¿verdad? A lot of people from the community came out. It wasn't just activists. It's very grassroots, marcha. People came from throughout. Like it says there, Aztlán, which means from all the way from Colorado and Texas, all over California, Arizona. People came here because this was like people would say it's the capital of Aztlán because there's the biggest concentration of Chicanos, Mexicanos is here, in Los Angeles. So.
It's gonna keep doing that. Sorry.
Okay, yeah. La Raza began questioning why so many of us were being sent off to a faraway country to fight, kill, and die. When it wasn't the Vietnamese harming us and mistreating us back home, it was the U.S. government itself doing that. So a lot of people, like it says there, a lot of Chicanos were like, well, why am I being sent to this country, to either die, to kill other people, some of them that look just like us, and they haven't done anything to us. Why are we being sent here to fight them? Why are we being sent here to kill them? Why should I see my brothers coming back in body bags, fighting the people that have done absolutely nothing to us? There's this, if you guys go online on YouTube, there's this YouTube video called Soldados by this brother Charlie Trujillo. He's also a Vietnam veteran, and he says how they would fly over, the fields, and he was seeing the people in Vietnam, right, working in the fields, and he was like, man, this reminds me of back home. But I'm fighting these people. Why? What am I doing here? So a lot of Chicanos, they started realizing that, like, man, this makes no sense. When you go back home, it's not Vietnamese people telling you can't be in this part of town. It's not Vietnamese people, shooting us down in the streets. It's not Vietnamese people beating us up or denying us our rights or all this and that. It's the United States government, and Anglo people, Europeans. So it's this like clash in your consciousness, like you're being told one thing your whole life, you're living something else, and then you're being told that same thing, being sent to another country to kill and die. According to many reports, Chicanos, who are only 8 million, were 20% of casualties in the war. At the same time, conditions for Chicanos back home were full of discrimination, racism, and violence. What exactly were Chicanos supposed to be to defend by fighting other poor brown people all the way across the world? And if you think about it, that's the same thing in every single conflict this government puts us in. Because a lot of people like to say all these wars that we cause. No, we don't cause them. It's the United States government that makes us go there and fight. Makes us go there and die. For what? Especially as Chicanos, as Mexicanos, as African people, as black people, as working class people. What are we doing in these wars? Why are we even there? Did we decide to go fight there? Did we decide that, hey, now, think about now the president. Palestine is such a threat to us. They're hurting us. Do we decide that? Do we decide that our taxes should go and send missiles and all this war machinery? We don't decide that. Someone else decides that. And someone else is going to decide that we have to go there and fight. So, yeah, as you can see that sign there.
Oh, sorry.
That sign, which my dad grew up seeing, ¿verdad? Over there in San Fernando, well, not in San Fernando, Silmar, which was a white area back then. Now it's all Raza. But, so it's just showing you that,
That sign is very popular
Yeah.
in Texas.
in Texas, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, we're being, that's how we had to live,
I'm trying to learn. Yeah, dude.
So that's how we had to live, and then we're being told to go somewhere else and fight some other people, It's gonna take pictures.
Not bad.
Oh,
I got it.
I did it. Oh, no. Sorry.
It's crazy you don't learn that either.
Yeah, none of that, man. All this history is
Whitewash.
totally whitewashed, totally, swept under the
Well,
rug.
they act like it's just black people go through things, so then we don't come together.
Yeah,
If
exactly.
we realize those same struggle, then we would be in solidarity
Yep.
since 60 years.
And that says it all right there, man. Look at that. It says it all right there.
I didn't even see the bottom. Oh shit. Remember that too quick.
Compare us to dogs. It's crazy.
Yeah.
That's nuts.
Less than dogs. Where the dogs are on top.
Like I just heard about the Zusu riots like in the last year. Like I didn't know about that shit either.
Yeah.
May I add something?
Yes.
The military, I have a young cousin in the Navy, and years ago you could join any branch and do 20 years and get some type of retirement. Currently, right now, as we speak, you have to go till 67.
Oh my God, man.
Taking it away.
Wow.
And the wages for a military person is just low.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
They just recruit the youngsters, there's recruiting areas everywhere. They don't pay them shit.
Yeah.
And, the government has them paperwork.
Just spit them out like nothing.
So, a career in the military is not, it's not.
What it used to be. Yeah.
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 They were forced to do that.
Yeah, back then, right?
Yeah.
It's happening now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
So many Chicano activists took their cause to the anti-war movement, but it fell on deaf ears. Nobody would listen to La Raza's plea for help and solidarity. So La Raza did not wait. Chicanos began organizing to bring attention to this huge injustice. And again, that's, I've heard my dad tell me how they would go to, all the anti-war movement. They would say that, well, we're Chicano, the Chicano community, we're like, such a small, back then we were a minority. Not anymore, no, but back then we were a minority, but we're like 20% of the casualties. They're saying, we need your solidarity, we need your help, help us, do something about this. And they're like, whatever, Mexicans.
They were going to reservations and taking Native Americans and volunteering them. I mean, promising them
Yeah,
the truth.
yeah. Just taking advantage. The National Chicano Moratorium Committee, formed in 1969 by former UCLA student, body president Rosalio Munoz, Brown Beret co-founder David Sanchez, and different student groups called for a Chicano moratorium on the water. Several demonstrations occurred throughout Aztlan, so this wasn't the only one, there was several of them in at least 18 cities in anticipation of the national demonstration. Los Angeles, the city with the largest Chicano Raza population, was chosen as the site for the main moratorium march. So they were all over the place. There was in San Fernando, even in San Fernando Valley there was one. There's probably more than one, all over the place, in Phoenix, Tucson, all over Texas, Colorado, New Mexico. In the Bay Area, there was different Chicano moratoriums, but they said we're gonna do one main one in East LA. It was said, La Raza came from throughout Aztlan. Wherever there were Chicanos, Chicanos came from. The ranks swelled to 30,000 strong. People from the community joined the marcha. Even a couple who was getting married joined. Yeah. Whittier Boulevard was filled with the Raza marching in a festive manner. Abuelitos y abuelitas, children, entire families marched and chanted Que Viva la Raza and Chicano Power. It became the largest non-white demonstration against the war in Vietnam, which is another fact that they don't tell you. But it shows you the significance of this event. It became like this huge event, this crystallization of a lot of stuff we don't know about, And very community oriented. Again, there was a lot of community that came out, because they were like, oh, my son is over there, my tío, my primo, etc. Or they came back dead, something like that, or hurt, or maimed, or something terrible, So it was something that people could see, like it's affecting us straight up.
Yeah.
A new consciousness that had been developing among our people became apparent that day. Oh, no?
Oh.
He's like, no, don't read that. If you would notice, the signs raised, the slogans on banners, and chants shouted, the march went way beyond being anti-war and about civil rights. Chicanos were not only expressing an organic sense of anti-imperialism and identifying with the people of Vietnam, but were seeing the huge contradictions in that Chicanos too are a colonized people. Colonized by the United States, in our homeland, Aztlan, occupied after a military invasion. Raza began understanding that it was that historical fact that led to all of the problems faced by La Raza. Colonization and capitalism were our enemies. Therefore, our solutions lay in struggling for our land and self-determination. If you see some of the videos of that or pictures of the Chicano Moratorium, the 1971, it was about self-determination. A lot of the signs said, our struggle is here in Aztlan, in the barrios. Que viva la raza, Chicano power. Pictures of Che. Flags of Aztlan or Mexican flags even. There's this famous picture, you couldn't see it, it was on the other slide, but there's a picture where there's a large banner that says Indians of all tribes. So that's showing you the consciousness people were developing. They're like, oh, we're all together, we're all Chicanos, our indigenous people, and we come from different tribes, different, native groups, but we're all one right here. So it's showing you there was this consciousness developing organically amongst the raza, like, hey, that's why those words Aztlan became so powerful, because it was talking about the land, and it was the regular people talking about it. It wasn't, just academics or people like that. It was the people, the workers on the street talking about, oh, this is Aztlan, I'm Chicano, yo soy Chicana and all that. Somos la raza. It came from the people themselves, so it was something very powerful developing amongst us. So, and they were saying, well, if this is our land and we're under occupation, so we are just like the Vietnamese people. That was dangerous. That's dangerous. If you have people inside of the United States identifying with the victims of imperialism somewhere else, that's dangerous. So the United States did not want that to happen. You know, so you can see that on that day. So here's our quote. This compañera, she was the founder of the East Los Angeles Chicano Welfare Rights Coalition, organization, I mean. Alicia Escalante, and she said this: I'd rather have my sons die for la raza and la causa than in Vietnam. So that shows you the consciousness that was developing in our people. You know, again, it went beyond anti-war. You know, it went beyond we want civil rights. You know, people were talking about self-determination. People were talking about land back. The way people today say land back, they were talking about actual land back, aslan. That means land back. That's a real physical land back, and we want the land back. You know, a lot more than what people say today. They're not saying that. You know, but yeah, you know that's to show you the consciousness that was developing. You know, she was a working class a woman, working class Chicana. You know, she wasn't an academic. She wasn't some person in the ivory tower. She was a working class woman, and she said that, you know, that she would rather have her children die for their people, die for this cause, die so that their people could live a new life, could live in a free Aslan, self-determined, than go and die in Vietnam. For what? You know, to come back home and be treated like you didn't even belong here, and you just fought for this government. You know, because you didn't fight for the country, you fought for the government over there. You know, so. While entire familias, children and elders, mothers and fathers sat listening to speeches and music, the LA County sheriffs and the LAPD formed a phalanx and charged the peaceful crowd. That's footage from you could go online, you could look up Requiem 29 or Chicano Moratorium, A Question of Justice, and you'll see this footage. The sheriffs entered the rally shooting tear gas and swinging their nightsticks mercilessly at unarmed people. So they just went in there without just beating people, beating women, beating children. There was if you see some of those documentaries on YouTube, I can send them out to you because you signed in. They tear gassed children that they all ran into the bathrooms at the park, and they shot tear gas into the bathrooms. They didn't care if there was kids. They didn't care if there was mujeres in there with their kids or grandmothers or whatever. They just did all that. They beat the men, obviously, and as you'll see, more happened than that. The Raza mounted a heavy and brave resistance. It can be said that the Chicano Moratorium of 1970 became a battle. Chicanos were able to drive the police out of Laguna Park, which today is Salazar Park, for a short while. Nevertheless, the only thing that the people had, such as their fists, sticks, rocks, bottles, and anything they could use to defend their families and neighborhood, was no match against tear gas clubs, shotguns, handguns, and the colonial state's law. So that's an actual image of when the people, they counterattacked the police and they drove them out. Así nomás, just with whatever they could get. They fought the police and they forced them out for a bit, but what could you do? They have all that stuff and they have the law on their side, In the aftermath of the resistance to the sheriff's brutal onslaught, 3 Chicanos' lives were lost. These 2 brothers, they were Brown Berets, Lynn Ward and Cecil, 15 years old, and Angel Gilbert Diaz, 35 years old. Lynn was blasted through the air when a tear gas canister exploded near him. Angel Diaz was shot as he attempted to flee armed police. Both of them were Brown Berets and died in defense of La Raza. We must remember them, for they gave the most ultimate sacrifice any human can give to La Causa, the cause of freedom and liberation in defense of their land and people. I have to emphasize that, because these young men, they literally, like it says there, they literally died defending their people. They died defending their community. They are martyrs of the movimiento. Just like we hear, in all these other countries that we that we admire for their resistance to imperialism, to colonialism, all that. We have as well, man. We have people, men and women, young men and women, that have died, literally spilled their blood, defending our people. And we don't know about them. We have no idea this ever happened. But we have people that died for these ideas of Aslan, just to call themselves Chicano or Chicana, just because they said we are La Raza, we're proud to be this. Their lives were taken. And right here down the street, not even far away, we're not talking about another country, we're not talking about another state, we're not talking about, drive an hour away, right down the street. These young men died defending, physically their people, and we know nothing about them. That's a shame. That's a shame. And that's a slap in the face to every Chicanito, every Chicanita, every child in the LAUSD school system that knows nothing, that people like them fought so that they could sit in that classroom, fought and gave their life. Young man, a 15-year-old kid, died so that there could be some accountability from the police nowadays. Died so that we could live a happy life, and maybe have a better opportunity at a life than our parents or the generation before us. They gave their lives for that. We know nothing about it. That's a shame, and that shows you what colonialism is. This educational system, this government, the United States government, is a colonizer. And the reason we don't know about this is no surprise. A colonizer will not allow their subjects to know their own history. Why? Then you guys know the answer.
Simulation.
Yeah, they want us to assimilate, but not be treated the same, but think in our minds, oh, well, I'm American, yeah. Oh yeah, they love me, and we don't even know about ourselves, So, yeah, I think it's important. Even in the moratorium, every year, I get the opportunity to speak to the group or to the event, and I tell them, we have to remember these two young men, and we know Ruben Salazar, obviously, and we honor him. But these two young men, they were just barrio kids. Well, one of them a barrio man, 35, another one a kid. We have to know their names. We know nothing about them, and it's like, our Emmett Till, or our people like that were killed in defense of their people. But we have to know them. We have to say say their name. 54 years later, let's keep saying their names. Because we have to let our kids know about it, ¿verdad? We have to let the new generation know about it, because if not, even in the movement, they will be lost. And they will know that, hey, your people have a history. Your people have spilled blood in the streets, in this city, so that you could go to that college campus, or so that you could get paid a little better, or that you as a mujer can have more opportunities, But we don't, so, yeah, I try to emphasize that a lot. Let's remember these brothers. The third victim of the sheriff's bloody attack was LA Times columnist and KMEX director, Ruben Salazar. Salazar was, check this out, shot in the head with a 12-inch tear gas canister as he sat in the Silver Dollar bar to get away from the heat with his crew. This man was sitting down. Imagine like one of us sitting down right here, and the cops came, and that's the actual, right there, shot him in the head with a tear gas canister, which is meant, I think they even say, don't call it a tear gas canister. It's like they used to use it to para que se fuera, to move people out of an area. So it wasn't just tear gas, it was like an actual explosive device. They shot it straight to his head. Yeah.
A flash bomb?
Something like that, but yeah, it's like a big.
Flashbang kind of thing?
No, it's like a big bullet that explodes.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
But it looks like a big bullet.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
And there's like documentary, they did a documentary on him, maybe like 5 years ago. They were following him, the FBI was following him. Because he was Chicano, he was East Chicano, and he was reporting about Chicanos. He went to Vietnam, también reporting on that. He reported on the Tlatelolco massacre in Mexico. When he worked for the LA Times, KMEX. So he had a voice. He wrote an article called, what is the Chicano? What do the Chicanos want? So he was getting the word out there for Chicanos, so they were keeping tabs on him, And
Didn't he also report on the Johnson brothers?
I think so.
The Johnson
Yeah.
brothers were murdered by the LAPD. I think they were in their home, and the cops came in and shot them.
Yeah.
So I think they were on him because of all that.
Yeah. Yeah, he was doing what a journalist should be doing, and as a Chicano. and yeah, they killed them. You know, so that's actually right there. I think there's like a regular tiendita there now. Um, but yeah, there's a plaque on the side over here, and every time there's a march, we stop right there. You know, we commemorated the danzantes do their thing and all that. Pero yeah, Ruben Salazar, and we might know a little bit more about him, but still, like, how many kids in LAUSD learn about Ruben Salazar? Not a single one. And you have to be of our age, you know, in your 30s, 40s, maybe in your 20s, ¿verdad? And then you start learning about your history if you take a Chicano studies class or something like that, or you get involved in something, you know. That, again, that's a shame, man. This is like basic LA history 101 that you should know. Basic Chicano history 101 that every kid in LAUSD should know about, you know. So, yeah, Ruben Salazar. And the park is named after him now. Laguna Park is now Salazar Park. 40 plus people were injured, and East Los Angeles went up in flames that night. And the following week, several smaller rebellions and skirmishes occurred throughout Aztlán as word got out of the deaths of Ward, Diaz, and Salazar. In Santa Monica, a teenage Chicano succumbed to the brutal beating he received while arrested at the moratorium as well. Young Jorge Rodriguez laid down and never woke up on his bed. So Jorge Rodriguez was he was arrested at the moratorium. He was from Santa Monica. But because it was, I mean, they mass arrested a whole bunch of people, and he was beat while he was arrested. He was a young guy, and so he didn't die like right there. But they let him go, and he died that night. He never woke up. So it's from the beating he took, you know. So that's like a fourth victim that even in the Chicano Moratorium we don't hear a lot about, you know. But that was like 4 people died basically because of the moratorium attack, the battle. This is interesting. I found this picture. Just a little side note. You can see right there, it says San Fernando Chicano Moratorium. And I asked my dad, hey man, what were you wearing on that day? And he told me and everything. And so I believe very much that young guy with the picket sign, looking to that side, is my dad. So yeah, I was like, hey man, I think I found a picture of you. 50 years later. The moratorium was pivotal in that it made people realize to what extent the state would react to peaceful calls for an end to the horrible injustices Raza was living through. Correctly so, many Chicanos now fully understood that there was no recourse for justice under the rule and law of an occupier. Chicanos emboldened their efforts to organize outside of the mainstream. You know, so a lot of people, they understood, like, man, we were just asking, like, hey, why are we dying over there? Why are we being sent over there? And you respond like this to families, to señoras and abuelitos sitting on the grass listening to a mariachi play? You respond in this manner? Jesus Christ, you know, we were. And so it made a lot of people understand, like, hey man, this is occupation. And if we raise our voice, if we say anything, we're gonna be dealt with brutally. You know, like it said there was like other confrontations right here in East LA and Boyle Heights that occurred throughout that time afterwards, you know, where more people died. There was, I think it shows later on some other pictures. You know, more people died, and so people were like, man, just for saying, like, I don't want to go there, I don't think we should go there, we have problems here that we need to solve, and you respond this way to us. So that means that there is no democracy for us. There is no justice in this system for us. We can't vote this out.
Yeah.
We have to organize our raza for self-determination. You know, so the partido grew after that, you know, la Raza Unida. There was another group that grew out of the partido called the August 29th Movement. They were like a Chicano Maoist organization. The Brown Berets también quadrupled after this. As a matter of fact, there's reports on this that when this happened, a lot of the barrios in LA, they came to peace amongst each other because they're like, hey man, we shouldn't be fighting each other. We're Chicanos, we should be together. So for even a time, you know, the barrios were not attacking each other. They came together. So it shows you like that consciousness, that collective consciousness in the everyday Chicano, Mexicano, Chicana, Mexicana was developing, you know, like, hey, we gotta do something for ourselves because this government is not gonna do it for us. Confrontations with the police continued past the events of August 29th, 1970, including another on September 16th, 1970, and January 31st, 1971, in which 20 people were shot, including one fatally, a Jewish brother, Gustav Montag. And that's the picture right there. Yeah, they thought he was a Chicano, they shot him. You know, because in history there was, Jewish people también that lived here on the east side. And, well, a lot of them might be darker, ¿verdad? And he was there at the demonstration and lo mataron. That's Raul Ruiz. He was a member of La Raza Unida as well. He was a journalist also. He started that magazine a few years ago. They had that presentation, the display for the Raza magazine. I don't know if you guys ever saw that. La Raza magazine. It was like a popular magazine in the Chicano movement. And it was a lot of Raza Unida members that put it together. So again, that became a famous picture right there. But yeah, Gustav Montag, another victim, of those confrontations. An honorary Chicano, There's more pictures of those confrontations. People just being shot left and right. History, we don't know. We have no idea that this even happened.
I got lost. I went down.
Are you okay? Oh no, leave it open. It's hot.
It's
Thank you.
The Chicano Moratorium became a battle cry for La Raza. It became symbolic of the long and arduous struggle that the Chicano people will have to fight in order to achieve collective power over our own lives. And there's some stickers from back then. Stop the draft, Chale no, we won't go. Commemorate the Chicano Moratorium, march with the partido. Not 1 year has gone by in which the Chicano Moratorium is not commemorated. In fact, the Partido de la Raza Unida, which I would emphasize and invite everybody here to join, you're all welcome to join the Partido, has made it a priority to uphold the moratorium not as a single event to commemorate, but as a national holiday of the Chicano nation, a day of resistance. So there's Chicano moratoriums that are commemorated in Texas, in Arizona, in San Diego at Chicano Park. They have a small event. So it became like this big thing, which, again, you don't hear about it like you should, but it's something that's commemorated throughout the country, wherever there's Chicanos, throughout Aslan, wherever there's Chicanos. And it was the Partido that said, Chicanos, wherever there's Chicanos and there's a Partido chapter or a movement organization, you should, honor this day and recognize it for resistance, the resistance we had on that day. In 1982, La Raza Unida proclaimed August 29th as Chicano Memorial Day, and that's the newspaper from back then, El Sembrador. And the quote from that is, "It is with the spirit of revolutionary solidarity that we as members of La Raza Unida Party proclaim August 29th as Chicano Memorial Day. It is a day to honor all our heroes, martyrs, and all of those who gave their lives to the struggle for emancipation and the struggle for self-determination. Viva la liberación, viva el pueblo chicano mexicano, viva Aslan libre." So we, on that day, in the Partido at least, we honor and commemorate all the victims, all the Raza victims of colonialism, whether they, from domestic violence, from police violence, from drugs and alcohol, from, the poisons that they've put in our communities so that we fight and kill each other, victims of police violence, victims of the migra violence on the border. On that day, we commemorate them all because every single one of those people have been victims of colonization. Every single one of those people have died because of the conditions this government has placed on our people. Whether they were Chicano, whether they're Mexicano, whether they were Guatemalteco, whether they were on the res. Every one of those people have died because of colonization, and we recognize them on that day. So that's tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of people, So we proclaimed it Chicano Memorial Day in 1982, which I was 1 year old. So, yes, I was 1 year old in 1982. Those are different flyers from the different moratorium events. As 1990 approached, the call was made to build for the 20th commemoration of the Chicano Moratorium. So that's the flyer, and the Partido was one of the main organizations back then, saying we have to commemorate this day. Again, it has to be a big, big event. And I remember those meetings at Centro CSO, when they still had the actual building, and there was a lot of people at those meetings. Those were big meetings back in 89, 90. Yes, I lived back then. As we approach, this is from a document from back then as well. As we approach the 20th anniversary of the National Chicano Moratorium, we call for a national mobilization to Los Angeles to commemorate this event. Not only do we see the need for a national commemoration, but need for a united national Chicano-Mexicano organization as well. We desperately need to bring together Chicano-Mexicano political activists and organizations to a national conference so that we can rebuild a very fragile and vulnerable Chicano-Mexicano movement. National Chicano Moratorium Committee, 1989, and that was a huge demonstration back then. I remember it down Whittier Boulevard. It was such a beautiful demonstration. That's a picture of this compañera. Yo soy Chicano, not Hispanic. Get it right. Hispanic was the Latinx of that time, which what I mean by that is the label placed on us at that time, and the sister is saying, I'm a Chicana, I'm Chicano.
That was Nixon, I think. Nixon
Yeah.
gave it to us.
Hispanic, yeah. And again, identity is a lot to us because, when we talk about self-determination, and when we say we're Chicano, Chicana, Chicanx, we're saying this is who we are as a people. That's the only word that came from us. All these other words, all these other labels, the government placed on us, and even Latino, Latina, Latinx, Latine, it's just the same word that has been placed on us. Hispanic, Mexican American, Spanish surname, and all the even more offensive ones. We didn't make those for ourselves. The only word we made for ourselves was Chicano, and La Raza, obviously. So that's why those words hold such power, in the community. That's why they continue to exist, because of the people themselves. So yeah, that's an image from back then. That's Ruben Salazar right there. More images, these are from my dad's pictures. Yeah, the same one right there. So yeah, you can see the flyer, the signs, Chicano Power, Viva la Raza, Basta no more, high school push-outs, Brown is beautiful. So it's a day where you're proud to be Raza, you're proud to be Chicano, indigenous, native, you're proud to be who you are, ¿verdad? And it's a day that it becomes such a powerful day. Every single year that we either march or have a rally, it's so beautiful. I remember the one we did in 2020 during the pandemic. It was beautiful to see how the community comes out, and it's like, this is our day. This is, of all the days in the year, that every single day is us working or slaving or whatever for the colonizer. On that day is our day. On that day we take the street. On that day we say que viva la raza, and you see the families. You see all the people honking. You see the beautiful kids, the Chicanitos and Chicanitas, all happy, waving at the marchers, the danzantes. It becomes such a beautiful, beautiful day to see your people, and you're proud of it. It's like the only day that we have out of the whole year to say, this is who I am home. You have no right to tell me to go back to my country, because I am, and I'm proud to be here. I'm proud of everything we are. Regardless of all the trials and everything we've gone through, we are still here, and we are proud to be Chicanos. We are proud to be Chicanas. And yeah, it's beautiful, man. People come from throughout, so you're all welcome to come to the Chicano Moratorium. It's my dad and my tia, and that was an article in the 42nd, so that was a while back también. Sigue la lucha chicana 42 años después. That was Whittier Boulevard también. Another flyer. So yeah, it's been something important to us, to commemorate that day. We got a good soundtrack.
And you're all popular.
There's a compañera, Iván de los Santos. She was very active in the Chicano Moratorium. And she passed away, ¿verdad? Sadly, but I like to show the sign she had that year. I took that picture. And her sign read, Chicano Power, we demand the right of self-determination for the Chicano Mexicano people. Arizona, California, the Southwest is our ancestral historical homeland. 500 years of resistance, ya basta. I know it's kind of dark, I mean, I'm not a photographer, but I took But yeah, may she rest in power, the compañera, a strong Chicana. She was very involved in the union movement también, in LA. So, you ask some of the older people in the union, the Chicanos mainly, they don't remember, Ivan de los Santos. Yeah. Also, part of the reason I put that there is because again, that day, the Chicano Moratorium is still commemorated, not because the city says, oh, this is Chicano Moratorium, not because any agency, not because any nonprofit, because of the people, because of our memory of that day. And through generations, the sister, obviously she was older, but I could relate it back to my family, my dad who was there, and he's passed this on to my sister and me, and now we're adults and we're passing it on to our kids, so it's only through that memory, that organic memory of the Raza, that this event is still being commemorated. Without the support of anybody else, without the support of any government aids, nothing. But we commemorate it. And on that day, again, we take the street or we take the park and we say, this is our day. We don't care what you say. This is our day. Today we talk about Aslan. Today we talk about, our history and our resistance that has cost so much blood, so much sweat, so many tears. But we are here. And again, that comes from ourselves. My dad, working class man, he became a teacher, but he wasn't anyone from the government, nothing like that. All the other people that I grew up seeing going to the Chicano Moratorium events, working class men and women, some of them teachers, sometimes there's nobody tied to an agency or nothing like that, just a common person saying, hey man, we remember this, we have to teach this to the coming generation, and it's up to us. So we're going to do whatever effort, whatever little that we can muster up to remind them of this on this day. So I'm very proud to be part of that tradition. It's a tradition, that I welcome everybody here to be a part of as well. But a tradition of resistance, it's rooted in right here in Los Angeles. So, yeah. That's yours truly and our chair, Vanessa Bustamante, the Partido de la Raza Unida, joined the call to mobilize for the historic 50th Chicano Moratorium in 2020 amidst the global pandemic, which had hit La Raza hard. We were the biggest hit group in the United States for a long time. Because the Raza is the frontline workers, what they call it. We're out in the fields, we're out, working the stores and all that. So we got hit hard. Where I live in Pacoima, that was like one of the major hit areas in the whole world for a good while. A lot of people died. During the George Floyd protests and uprisings, the 50th Chicano Moratorium Committee was able to mobilize a march and cart caravan down the historic route on Whittier Boulevard to Salazar Parque. This is from an article I wrote, which I can send to you all también. It is said that these feelings of grief and pain unite a people more so than victory, since these feelings present a void to us, and thus a duty to act upon this void, as if it were a wound on our collective body. In other words, our nation, and that means Aslan, not the United States. Colonized people throughout the world commemorate historical events in the same sense, from the Palestinian Nakba to the Irish Bloody Sunday. So the Chicano Moratorium is that to us as Chicanos. Ernesto Ayala?
Quoting yourself.
Quoting myself. Not quoting that guy. That would be a good
Gift
sticker.
stickers?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a nice design. Whoever made that killed it. Deserves a raise.
I think that was the last one.
Thank you. Shorter than usual.
Yeah, usually go all the way to 70 slides. That's it.
It was a record. But yeah, you know, I mean, it's a very important event, ¿verdad? Growing up, ¿verdad? And seeing this, you know, and knowing about the Chicano Moratorium, and then my dad was there, knowing about the martyrs of that day, and then going to school and nobody knew anything about it. It was a big shock, you know. So I've made it a priority to talk about the Chicano Moratorium, to when I have a chance to, you know, to put it into context why this event is so important to us, you know, as Raza, because it laid the foundation for a lot, you know, and it's historical, and it shows you the contradiction in a society that tells you, be like me, all you gotta do is be American, be like this, and then you don't have to worry about anything. And we try that and we don't get it, you know, and we get our history denied. You know, one of the things that we need to understand is, and not only as Chicanos, as workers, as Africans, as Asian people, every single right that we have, even if they're small, even if they're being taken away, every single right that we have, we fought for. We gave blood. Everything from things we don't even think about. Weekends, minimum wage, child labor laws, all of that was fought for. And people gave their lives. And Chicanos and black people have had to fight double that. Even then, you know, it's because even then it wasn't guaranteed to us, because we weren't even considered human beings. And we had to fight even double to have, you know, those rights, to have those rights in our lives, ¿verdad? To even be able to walk into a school. As Chicanas, hasta más, 3 times, you know, 4 times, to be able to go to a school, to be able to have a career, to be able to do all these other things. We had to fight for that. You know, nothing was given to us. And the Chicano Moratorium is a perfect example of people literally gave their lives here in Los Angeles so that we could live a little better of a life than we did back then. We know nothing about this event. We know nothing about such a big 30,000 people, the largest non-white demonstration against the U.S. invading Vietnam, and we know nothing about it. You know, it's an event that led to uprisings, that led to more confrontations, that led to more people dying. You know, that led to all these other reforms that we just don't know about or have since then been rescinded, and we know nothing about it. You know, so put it into context. You know, it's not just, oh no, this history or this happened, or, you know, some people like to say, oh, it's the Chicano civil rights. This went beyond just civil rights. You know, it's when you're attacked for asking for something so simple, and then in your own land, you know, that goes beyond civil rights. And we were demanding more than civil rights on that day. We're demanding the right to self-determination. You know, we're demanding that, hey, we are our own people. We have a right to govern ourselves. You know, and people died for that. So, yeah, I mean, that's what I want people to take away from that. Get involved, ¿verdad? Join La Raza Unida. There's a lot of work that we're doing, but we commemorate that day, but not that just that day. But we're doing a lot more than just that. But all geared towards self-determination of our people. Whether you're Chicano, whether you're Mexicano, whether you're Central American, whether you're from a tribe, whether you're quote unquote half, what they say half, you know, like if we're dog breeds. But you're Raza. If you're here, you're Raza, ¿verdad? And our people have the right to organize for ourselves. That's what Raza Unida party represents. So, gracias. And if you have any question, comment, let me know. I'll pass the time.
So we're gonna open it up to some questions, and that you guys will take a couple questions, like 3 questions. So.
Hi.
Hello.
Yes. Great presentation. Really enjoyed it. Just learning about all this stuff. It's crazy though, because yeah, you're right. Like I've never heard about this stuff in school. Yeah, and I went to like public schools and charter schools, so nothing. But anyway, like my question is, like I'm still getting like the grasp of the whole idea of Aslan, right? From my understanding of it, it seems like it's like more like a spiritual kind of land area for Chicanos. I was just doing like a little bit more research on it, right? Like as soon as the U.S. annexed Mexico, back in like the 1800s, that's when that area started the first Chicanos, right? Because they were once Mexican, but now since the U.S. annexed Mexico, now they're Mexican American, right? So now that's the first Chicanos, right? So that's where my understanding of us like Aztlan is coming from like you said, like the Southwest. Yeah, just wanted to see if you could like elaborate more on that, just so I could understand it a little bit better.
And I did a whole presentation on that. I'll send it to you.
Okay.
But no, so this idea of Aztlan, I think a lot of people, we don't understand, we're not taught, right, how history happens, that history doesn't just stop because the United States exists. It doesn't stop at the borders. Nations will continue to develop, and we've seen it throughout history, ¿verdad? Palestine, for example. Zionists, they're not lying when they say there was no Palestinian nation before. There wasn't. There was a piece of land that some people call Palestine, but there was no actual physical Palestine, like a nation, Zionism created Palestine. And if you look at the charter of the one on the presentation, Aztlan to Palestine, the Palestinians themselves recognize that it was basically British colonialism under the Balfour Declaration, and when they took this area, which was formerly the Ottoman Empire, and then they didn't. It was like, well, is it Syria? Is it part of Lebanon? Is it part of this and that? A little part of Egypt. They weren't really sure because there was no actual physical nation state there. But Zionism carved it out, and the Palestinians say, well, you know what? Those are our borders, because those borders gave birth to a new people, the Palestinian people. It's the same thing with Vietnam. There was no Vietnam before, but French colonialism created Vietnam. But who's gonna say the Vietnamese people are not a legitimate nation? A racist would say that, a colonizer would say that, but they are a legitimate people. They used to call that area French Indochina. There was various, before that, it was various other cultures, in that area, like city-states también, but there was like no physical Vietnam or Cambodia or anything like that. It was till, France created that. But those are legitimate nations that fought for their liberation. So the same thing has happened here. But that's like a shocking thing to tell people, like, whoa, what do you mean here in the United States? Even to a lot of people on the left, the quote supposed left, they're like, what do you mean? I mean, that doesn't make sense. It's supposed to be like this. They have this imagination of the workers' struggle, like if it was Russia or something like that, That's not what the United States is. The United States came about through the occupation of different indigenous nations and then bringing in African people as slaves. It didn't develop like one whole nation, out of like some independence war. They had an independence, but in Boston, but that's it. And then they tell you that same story everywhere they go, like, oh, American independence. That didn't happen here. There was no, Americans fighting England here. If there was any supposed independence here, it was Mexican/natives fighting Spain here. That's why it became Mexico here. It's not like Mexico invaded North. It became Mexico because of the War of Independence. So nations continue to form. And when the United States came, exactly like you said, when the United States came here and annexed this part of Mexico, it put into cycle this new relationship between the people that were there already and itself. And that relationship created the Chicano, from a sector of the indigenous people, and then further migration, from the south, not only from Mexico, but increasingly Central America, and have created the Chicano people, and so a lot of people don't want to understand that, even in the left, they're like, what do you mean, nations, so that nations, that's European, that's world history, man, it is because of colonialism, but are you going to deny legitimate nations develop out of that? You'd be denying all of human history, come on, I mean, all of Africa, all those countries were carved out by the colonizers, but every single one of those people, like we see right there, Frantz Fanon from Algeria, they said, I'm African, I'm Algerian, and I'll fight you to the death. It's the South Africa, perfect example. South Africa, Azania. There was no South Africa before the Europeans arrived there. It was just, the different areas, different indigenous areas and all that. But South Africa, the colonizers made an actual, because of the colonization, they made an actual nation of people that are South African, and they're African, and they fought for their liberation. Who's gonna say they're not a legitimate nation? A racist, a colonizer. So why does that change here?
So is
And the brother, he was.
it was about the Aslan.
Okay, go for it.
That's the only reason why.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
is
Whichever.
is it Aslan? Aslan?
Aslam.
Aslan? Is that so? Would that be like a state inside Mexico in a sense?
Not really. I mean, it depends who you ask, but.
Okay.
Oh, it depends who you ask, but in La Raza Unida, what we say is, we're our own thing. Yes, our part of our origin is Mexican, part of our, obviously because we're here,
So it's like a new nation.
It's like a new nation, basically,
Gotcha.
Because, if you go to Mexico, we don't exactly here grow up as Mexicanos in Mexico.
Yeah, no.
It's not denying that we have roots there, or some of that is roots here, but we have our own experience. It's like the Palestinians. The Palestinians say, yes, we are Arab. We're Arab, but we're specifically Palestinian because of our experience under Zionist occupation. It makes a new psyche in the people, Like Chicanos, even look at something funny, right? Food's Gone Wild, right? That's a Chicano thing.
Yeah.
It's not a Mexicano thing from Mexico. That's a Chicano thing.
Cultural.
It's a cultural thing, because of our experience.
Lowriders.
The lowriders, all that. That's a Chicano thing because of our experience living under U.S. occupation, living under this new experience that people in Mexico or Central America or white people here do not go through. We go through that,
Just to add, the way I kind of think about that is the way I look at Catalonia in Spain, and where they have their own history, their own language, and yet they're still under Spain, and there's always constant movements for liberation within them. That's a good analogy that I put in my head. But yeah, Aslan is an interesting thing. But my question is actually for La Raza Unida, the party. Chicano as a term is very Mexi-centric, and I think that's something that throughout my lifetime we've tried to expand upon when we identify as Chicano. And this history that we were just learning about comes from an LA that was, everybody was pretty much Mexican at that time if you were considered Hispanic, Latino person here in Los Angeles. But those times have changed. Now we have the largest diaspora of Central Americans here in Los Angeles. We have a growing Filipino movement. How is La Raza Unida party really dealing with that, and within that also the colorism that exists within our culture?
I think that's a good point, brother. Like we're saying, we're a new nation. To us, we're a new nation, and when we say Chicano, it's not just Mexican. Because again, Chicano. That's why that one picture I was mentioning, you couldn't really see it, but it said Indians of all tribes. So we include, if you have a Central American person that came here and they had kids or they grew up here, their experience was our experience, that's a Chicano. If you had a Filipino person, because in the partido there's been Filipino people, and they identify as Chicano. And who's to say they're not Chicanos? They are Chicanos. They're Chicano. They might not be Mexicano, but they are legitimate Chicanos because they grew up here, they experienced our same experience, maybe a little different, in their home life. Just like Centroamericanos, maybe a little different. Maybe they eat. And in LA, everyone eats pupusas now, which I think is kind of cool. Shows you that development of culture. And to me, that's part of Chicano culture in LA now. Pero your general overall experience is the same. I had a friend that lived right there in Pacoima, lived down the street from me. He died already. He was older. He was a white guy. He had Pacoima on his sponsor right here. Straight up homie, ¿verdad? His wife was a Chicana. He had kids. They're all Chicanos, obviously. And I was telling him, hey man, you're Chicano, man. You're not white. And he would be like, oh man, I am white, but he didn't want to claim it. But he talked like us. He grew up in Pacoima. He was poor, total Chicano, ¿verdad? That was a Chicano. How is that not a Chicano? Again in the partido, there was a chapter in Acton. Back in the 70s, my dad tells me they were all Filipinos. And they were organizing La Raza Unida party out there. Why would they not have a right to? Who would have a right to tell them, hey, you can't organize that because you're not Mexican origin. That's crazy, you know.
Did they?
And they organized the Raza Unida party. Yeah, yeah. They're all Filipinos.
And that's Acton, like northern?
Acton, it's like near Palmdale, Lancaster area. Yeah.
I just want to add to that. So I'm part of a group called Black Men Build, and like in our New York chapter, I think it's New York, but an Iranian girl runs our chapter. You know what I mean? I feel like part we call it nation building. We call it nation building,
There you
and
go.
basically like we're trying to build nations, like you guys say, and so the cultural like establishment is important, right? Like La Raza Unida, like Black Men Build. But just because you aren't that like race, like for example, I'm not African American, right? But I'm Black and I'm from Brazil. You know, I'm Afro-Latino, and so I think if you believe in that person's liberation, then you are part of their movement. You know, and it doesn't mean that you are a Mexican. You know what I mean? It doesn't mean that you're a Black, but it means you're pro-Black, pro-brown, whatever. So I feel like in that spirit that you claim, you denounce your ancestors if you are a colonizer, and you take on that role of being a liberator. You know?
Exactly.
Got it, yeah.
Perfect example. Perfect example. Thank you, brother. And perfect example is one guy that we all recognize here, Che.
Yeah.
Che was basically a white guy from Argentina.
Yeah.
He denounced all that and he said, hey, I'm part of the peoples of Latin America. The poor people, the indigenous people, the quote unquote mestizo, the black people. That's who I am. And he died fighting in Bolivia with indigenous people. You know?
That's also complicated because of white savior complexes, right? The folks coming in and they don't give space to the people that are actually coming up,
Yeah.
that are feeling that hit day in, day out.
Yeah.
I've seen so many white folks. I've just said I've seen so many white folks that are leading these movements when there's people of color that are able, and the best way I can describe it is like I'm just tired of being extraordinary for unextraordinary people, and it's just because they don't give up that space.
Yeah.
So I think it's good that we have allies, but we have to understand how we have to be the thing that unifies us is anti-white supremacy and against anti-blackness, right? Like those are the things that I think that we are kind of coming around on, because through that liberation, then we as Raza also become liberated in that same space. Yeah, it's just that the Che, he's a great leader.
Yeah.
But I have also seen that become problematic.
I got here late, but my question is, since we are talking about Che, so on your party's platform, your party's line, when you establish self-determination, when you establish a patria, a nation, as Che Guevara would say, does that mean you welcome in a Chicano elite or a Chicano bourgeoisie? Or is it more like the idea of the Che Guevara idea where Chicano workers are the ones controlling production and industry, and it's a worker-run society? Because it seems like the whole identity of a worker is very important in your party. So I think that's my question.
No, we're socialists. We understand that our struggle.
Yeah.
No, that's obvious. I mean, no.
Look at everything.
We would not be La Raza Unida if we didn't understand that. We would not be La Raza Unida if we did not understand that. Our challenge to people in other organizations, white-led, like the brother said, white-led organizations, is understand that Chicanos, Mexicanos, working people like us have the capacity to develop these concepts on our own, based on our conditions. We obviously, if we talk about self-determination, it's because we want to create a new society. Not just for ourselves. Like, we're not going to be like, hey, let me check your blood quantum of your, but we want to create a new society. We're otherwise, this was the thing back in the days. Now we're talking just about Raza, that's cool. There was a split in the partido. This was back in the mid-70s. There was a split in the Raza Unida because there was people saying all we have to do is elect people, get people to register and vote and whatever, Chicanos. And then the other side was saying, no, we need to develop our ideology, you know. And my dad was one of the people that were on that side. That side was the side led by Jorge Gonzalez, you know, which began as Chicano nationalists, and you know now we're Chicano revolutionary nationalists, and we're guided by scientific socialism. Because again, we have to understand, if there's going to be a revolutionary situation in this country, it's going to come by, you know, the colonized people, and one of the biggest that could challenge the United States on territory is us, the Chicano. But we understand that movement it's not just for Chicanos. That movement is gonna help. I mean, imagine if Chicanos, if Raza were able to liberate, you know, just thinking out there, right, in the future, but not that far in the future. Let's say we're able to liberate the Southwest, quote unquote, the Southwest.
Mm-hmm.
That would deal a heavy blow to United States imperialism. A heavy blow that it would help out all the other movements. In the same way, all the other movements throughout the world and domestically organizing will help out us. We understand that, you know, because we do want to create this new society. It's not, you know, we don't want to just get like a brown person. We already have that. A brown person elected and all our part of assault. Yeah, you know. Yeah. We don't. I mean, why would we want that? We've seen that a long time ago, you know. You know, we want self-determination, the ability to govern for ourselves and say, well, this is what we want. You know, the workers, like for example, when we were talking on the phone the other day, when we're talking about land back, what do we mean by land back? Land back, literally, to us, means seize the means of production. That's land back. That is not just a hashtag land back and have a politician say, oh, I recognize the people of this land, blah, blah, blah. No, man, get out of here. I don't want to hear that. I don't care about that. Land back means the indigenous people and all the other workers take that land back, literally. And that land has the factories, has the schools, has the police departments, has all the stuff that creates the economy. We all run, that we work. We don't run it, we work it. We build these cities. We want that back. That is land back to us. You know, self-determination.
I speak first. Okay. Speaker back. Yeah, alluding to that too. Because something that, well, for me personally, that like drew me to La Raza Unida, not other than literally being like a Chicano, right, is also the class consciousness part, right, like the theoretical part. When I hear stuff like, yeah, like land back and the people, you know, getting the means of production and just abolishing like a bourgeois class, I think about a lot of like obviously revolutionaries, right, like Lenin and Marx, right? And when I talk about them in particular to like other leftists or revolutionaries, yeah, we were kind of talking about that earlier, right? Like a lot of like supposed leftists, communists or whatever, reject those ideas just because they're white, and I feel like that's kind of damaging, right? Because I don't know. Whenever I hear that, I just lose brain cells. Honestly, it just doesn't make any sense. Yeah, like I don't even know what to like compute. Yeah, yeah, but I guess what my question to that too, like I guess like how do you like respond to that? Because it just doesn't make any sense how supposed leftists, Marxists, whatever, say that they're for working class people, but then when we have a movement like this movement right here that actually like promote socialist, communist ideas, right? Abolishing private property, people owning the means of production, right? Stuff like that. Like, how do you respond to that? Because I just get stuck, me personally. Just brain cells. Yeah.
Well, Marxism is a science, right? So I mean, the guys happen to be white because of the place and time and all that.
Yeah, Germany.
But are we gonna say gravity is European because of Newton or something like that?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
That's a good point.
You know? So I mean, that's it, right there. I mean, I've met people like that since I was a kid, and be like, oh, that's the white man. Like, how is that the white? It's a science. Have you even read it? To say, and then these are guys that claim to be anarchists, and guys. So Bakunin was not white, you know, and all these other people, they're not white. But yeah, I mean, it's a science. It's a science of society. It's a science of human history, you know, dialectics and all that. That's science. It's not like Karl Marx said, oh, I have this idea and I just want to write about it. Blah, blah, blah. He studied how capitalism developed. You know, he talks about colonialism. He even says it was colonization that gave like the birth, you know, like everything that capitalism needed to be birthed in Europe, you know, because of all the wealth they stole from indigenous people and Africans and all that. That made capitalism develop in Europe. He says that. So these guys that say that, you know, like, oh, we're indigenous and all this, and that's the white man, if they would read that and be like, oh shit, I didn't know that. But he said that, you know. It's a science. It's a science, you know, because the person that wrote it and studied it and then wrote it says it happened to be a white guy, doesn't mean that's European. Again, you know, there's all sorts of other sciences that Europeans were put on paper officially, right? Because they had the means to do it, you know. That's it. Socialism, Marxism is another example. You had Darwin explain to how, you know, how evolution and all that. Is evolution now a white man? I mean, some people actually might say that. It's just ridiculous. But evolution is not a white man's thing. It's science of how humanity and everything developed out of, you know, a tadpole. That's not a white man's idea. That's science. So the same way, you know, Marxism is a science of society. So it's not a white person's thing. You know, and you would sound crazy saying all these other sciences that we take for granted is white because the person that wrote about it or was known for it was a white person. You know, that's why I tell people, you know, I'm like, come on, man, if you read it, yeah, please go read it. We have study classes, you're welcome to come, you know, that's all.
All right, so we're going to end the questions portion of the night. If you guys want to continue talking to Ernesto, feel free to hang out. Please support the store. Stack the chairs if you can. We're just gonna cut it here because, as you can see, the music is like really overwhelming. And that I told you at 8:30, that's when they start. They're gonna put it louder at 8:30. So this is loud, but it gets louder. So thank you all for coming out. Please feel free to hang out with Ernesto. He loves that. So buy him a beer or something. But yeah, all right. Give him a round of applause. Thank you, Ernesto.